It is out in paperback, and local Worcester author will be joining us in just a moment to talk about that. Right now, though, from the College of the Holy Cross, Professor David Schaefer is with us, and our political discussion continues. And thank you, Professor, for stopping by this morning.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. So we have Senator Kennedy who has passed away. We are now going to have a special election for his seat. Every day seems to bring who's in, who's out, who's thinking about it, who's pulling papers. Time is growing short here. I would have thought that everybody who was going to be in would have been in already, but not yet. Who do we know is in, and who would be the front runners?
So far as I know, there were three Democratic candidates. That is to say, our Attorney General, Martha Coakley, and two congressional representatives, Stephen Lynch and Michael Capuano, both from the Boston area. And on the Republican side, one serious candidate, Scott Brown, one reported but I think non-serious candidate, Jackie Robinson.
Now, yeah, non-serious because the number of people who would know a selectman is just such a small number, and to have the money to get your name known, I mean, we're talking millions of dollars to be able to run this race in this short period of time that you would have to raise and spend.
Right. No, Brown is a serious candidate. Robinson, who had some dirty laundry that emerged the last time he ran for state office.
Oh, I do remember him. Right, yes, I do remember him. But you know what? I think that I thought that there was another Republican candidate, but he was a selectman from somewhere. And I said, you know, by the time you could get your name out there from Brockton or somewhere, when we're talking millions of dollars, let's begin with the Republicans, and let's begin with Senator Brown. Interesting in that Andy Card, you know, came out and said, I'm not going to get into the race, but I'm certainly going to put my weight behind him. Is he able to, because he would not be known statewide, is he going to be able to raise the money and get his name known statewide? He
is a long shot by virtue of being, first of all, a Republican, and secondly, only a state legislator. That puts him well behind the three prominent Democratic candidates. At least the congressional representatives, even if not statewide, start with a much larger base than a state legislator does.
All right, the Attorney General, is she then, from what you just said and the way that you set it up, she the odds-on favorite, most name recognition?
She has an advantage in name recognition. She is currently at a disadvantage in fundraising because, owing to the law, she's not allowed to transfer money from the kitty that she had to run for state office, left over, to run for national office. So in order to catch up with her rivals who are already national office holders, she has turned to Emily's List, the prominent national feminist political fundraising organization. And so there's a good chance that the combination of her name recognition with the support of Emily's List for funding will make her the odds-on favorite. After all, Lynch and Capuano are hardly known outside the Boston area.
You know, Lynch to me strikes me as somebody who is the most Kennedy-esque out of the four people that you have mentioned. The guy who maybe would go out and appeal to sort of, you know, the Joe lunch pail Democrat that they used to talk about. I mean, you know, that lunch pail Democrat who had some fiscal conservative values, would sit on the end of the bar and you know, have a conversation with you about politics.
Well, he's more genuine lunch pail than any Kennedy who's held office. He was, after all, a union worker and a union official. So he does have that advantage to the extent that it's blue-collar voters who decide the election. On the other hand, Mr. Capuano has, I would say, abased himself before big labor. On Labor Day, he promised that if you vote for me, I promise to support so-called responsible employer ordinances, project labor agreements, basically any kind of agreement that will exclude non-union workers from public construction
So we're
projects.
expecting labor to come out and hold the signs. And is labor still a force in the Democratic primary?
I think it is, because the advantage that unions have, even though they constitute only a limited minority of the population, is that their workers turn out and vote. That's an advantage that they have over non-organized segments of the electorate, especially in a special election, which isn't going to draw nearly so many voters as even a biennial congressional election would.
If you were to handicap this right now, Professor, how would you do it?
I'd have to give the edge to Coakley because of her statewide name recognition. I don't know how to choose between Lynch and Capuano as to who has the better chance. Scott Brown is a long shot by virtue of being a Republican in probably the bluest of blue states.
When they all get out there and they begin to fight the good fight, this is a real sprint, something that we're not used to in politics, where normally they would have been running for about for 2 years or so. Mm-hmm. How does that change the game, and could that give Senator Brown maybe a little bit more of a chance?
I think, if anything, it's the opposite. The advantage in a short race goes to those who already have name recognition. And again, just because he's a state legislator, he has less name recognition than either congressional representative or the Attorney General. So the shorter the race, the less of a time to make yourself known if you weren't already known.
It seems to me, just in this short time that they have been out there, that the Attorney General, Martha Coakley, she really has an organization. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's been out there, they've been doing stand-ups, I've seen signs already. I haven't seen that type of organization from any of the other three you've mentioned.
She seems to have been well prepared for this race.
Yes, maybe for the last couple of years she's been thinking about it. Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about what is happening in the legislature right now, where they're trying to make this decision about if we would have an interim senator for this next 4 or 5 months until the special election. Is that something that, it seems to me that the process has already begun, and even State Senator Michael Moore was just saying that a few moments ago. The process has begun. How do we suddenly change the rules?
It's something that, to an outside observer, would be somewhat embarrassing. The Democratic legislature changed the rules only a few years ago when John Kerry was running for president to ensure that if he won, the Republican governor would not be able to appoint an interim senator. But now that we have a Democratic governor, possibly a majority of the legislature, which is of course heavily Democratic, is speaking about changing the rules back to the old way so as to ensure that we have an interim representative in the Senate as soon as possible. It's so manifestly partisan that to an outside observer it would seem embarrassingly so. That doesn't mean that it won't happen.
No, it would. If you had to bet on it, would you bet that it will happen?
Yes, I would.
Yes. All right. Anybody else that we can expect perhaps to jump into this race? I hear that they are lobbying Reggie Kennedy very hard.
I haven't heard about that. There was one person who had the opportunity to make the actual election a horse race. That was Curt Schilling, who's a Republican and a statewide, or I should say region-wide hero. So to anybody who wanted to see a real electoral horse race, it's a disappointment that Schilling has apparently decided not to make the run.
That would have been fun, and somebody who would have gone out there and just spoken his mind and not worried about the repercussions. Professor Schaefer, what we'd like to do over the next several months, if it's all right with you, is have you continue to come back and join us here in the morning and kind of continue to handicap this as it goes along.
Sure, be happy to do so.
Terrific. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Right here on Wake Up Worcester. Jack O'Connell coming up. We're going to talk about his new book. It is in paperback right now.